We are so happy to welcome Sabrina Genz to the stage. Sabrina is an assistant professor for labor economics at Utrecht University. Her research focuses on the labor market effects of technological change. So over to you, Sabrina.
Thank you. I know it's a hard job. I'm the only obstacle between you and the coffee break, so I will do my best to keep being short and be in time. I want to bring in this room today the perspective how new technologies, AI and specifically, are affecting jobs and the labor market. And I want to show you 3 mechanisms that are important to keep in mind how AI is affecting jobs. And as Jos already pointed out, as labor economists, we don't think that technologies are taking over an entire job. We're more taking the perspective that a job consists of different tasks. So one of the tasks as an assistant professor is to give a speech to stakeholders, or I will grade exams for my students, or I will sit down and program with AI myself. So my job as assistant professor is just a component of different tasks. And one of the mechanisms how AI now affect my job is that they could take over one of the tasks that I'm performing. So if you think about industrial robots, I think everyone in this room knows that, of course, industrial robots had the potential to take over the task of routine workers. So this is a strong displacement and automation effect. So indeed, technology has the potential to take over tasks that humans are performing on the labor market. But there is another very important mechanism that we should not forget if we're talking about the impact of new technologies on labor and the workforce. And that is, technology is also making us more productive in the tasks that we're doing. So you could also call this augmentation mechanism. I call it now productivity mechanism. So new technologies are making us more productive in the tasks that we're already doing. They're just helping us. They're providing us tools to make our work more quickly, more efficiently, and less error-prone. And then one of the last mechanisms that I want to point out today is that they are also creating new tasks. So as you think about data scientists or AI inspectors, they are all like jobs that did not exist 40 years ago. They did not even exist 10 years ago. So with new technology arising and technological progress taking place, there's also an emergence of new tasks, even new jobs and new industries in a whole. So don't be so pessimistic and just take away, oh, robots, AI, they're just stealing our jobs. No, that's not the whole side of the story. There's also this potential that actually there's new creation of tasks, new creation of jobs, and it can augment what workers are doing on their jobs. But there are also constraints. So technological possibility is not equal to technological feasibility. So what is actually going to happen in the workplace? So we are bounded by a legal system. So we're just not taking every technology that we technologically could implement, but we're bounded in terms of what data do we monitor on our workforce. How are we implementing these technologies in our firms? So feasibility might not equal the real implementation in the workplace. There are also ethical norms. So if we think, for example, in the health sector, do we really want that robots are taking over care of our elderly? Or do we have an ethical norm that actually prefers that still humans are giving care to our elderly? So those might also be very important constraints if we're thinking about the impact of new technology in the labor market. And of course, very importantly, and already previous speakers have pointed out to this, it will also depend how we as workers actually adjust to those new technological feasibilities. So will we train ourselves to work with the new technologies? Will we take part in retraining and learning how to work with these new technologies? And is our government providing us enough resources to actually go to university and train in IT bachelor's and master degrees? So it's very, very important to actually also look how our workforce is skilled and reskilled in this technological process. And then, of course, there are also other big trends, like population aging, globalization, environmental challenges, so climate change, we also have to take into account that all these are actually affecting how new technologies are affecting the labor market. So, for example, if you think about climate change, there might be a directed technological progress that we really invest a lot of money into these specific developments, how we can actually use technology in order to make climate change stop or less severe. And as a very last point before I leave you to the coffee break, I just want to mention that actually if we're thinking about the impact of new technologies on workers or the workforce, it also very much depends on our level where we're measuring the impact. So do we think about how does new technology affect your personal specific workplace? Or are we talking about your occupation? So how do new technologies affect the profession of assistant professors? And of course, also, we can take the perspective of how are new technologies affecting the workforce in a specific firm. So if your firm where you're employed is implementing new technology, maybe you at your workplace, you're not really exposed to the technology, but others are. And then, of course, also there might be divergent effects on you versus your co-workers, or you might be also be affected from a new change of organization in your firm, even though your specific job is not exposed to the technology. And then we can think one step broader, how is the work changing in an entire industry? So for example, in the maritime industry, how is it changing in your country? So what do we see on aggregate for the Dutch workforce, or of course also for Europe and the entire world? So think carefully if you think about the impact, who is affected and what are the channels that actually allow the technology to affect your workplace. And that's what I wanted to say, and I really look forward to speaking to you also in the coffee break. Thanks a lot.